The dust tasted like regret. Silas blinked, wiping the gritty film from his eyes as he surveyed the wreckage. 3 wagons lay overturned, splintered wood jutting skyward like broken bones. A scattering of goods, bolts of fabric, sacks of flour, a child's wooden rocking horse, were strewn across the parched earth. 3 days out of Tombstone, headed for the fledgling settlement of Redemption Springs, and they'd run afoul of the Devil's Claw gang. Silas wasn't a lawman, not officially. He was a scout, hired by the Arizona Land and Cattle Company to guide wagon trains through the territory. But Silas had a past, a darkness he tried to outrun, and that past often made him the closest thing these travelers had to a protector. He was a shadow, a quiet force that kept the wolves at bay. "How bad is it?" A woman's voice, choked with fear, broke through his grim assessment. He turned to see Martha Olson, her face streaked with dirt and tears, clutching a small boy to her. Her husband, Thomas, lay a few feet away, unconscious but alive, a nasty gash on his forehead. "They took what they wanted," Silas said, his voice low and steady. "Food, livestock, money. They're gone now. The Devil's Claw, a ragtag group led by a man named Jericho Blackwood, a former Confederate soldier with a reputation for brutality. They preyed on vulnerable travelers, leaving a trail of misery in their wake. What about my father?" A young girl, no older than 8, sobbed, pointing towards a figure slumped near a wagon wheel. Silas approached cautiously. Elias Thorne, a grizzled prospector, was clearly dead, a single bullet hole in his chest. "He's been trying to strike it rich in the hills but found only death." "I'm sorry, child," Silas said softly, offering a small, comforting gesture. "He won't be needing this anymore." He reached into his pouch and retrieved a small, tarnished silver locket, handing it to the girl. "Your mother gave this to him. It's for you to keep." The girl clutched the locket tightly, her tears flowing freely. The other survivors, a motley collection of hopeful settlers, huddled together, their dreams of a new life in Redemption Springs now tainted by loss and despair. Silas knew he couldn't leave them like this. The journey to Redemption Springs was long and arduous, and they were now vulnerable, stripped of their supplies and their faith. He felt a familiar tug of responsibility, a sense of obligation to help those who couldn't help themselves. "I'm staying with you," he announced, his voice carrying a quiet authority. "We're going to make it to Redemption Springs." A flicker of hope ignited in the survivors' eyes. Silas wasn't a flashy hero, but he was dependable, a man of action. He had a way of facing down danger that inspired confidence. "How can we trust you?" A burly man named Caleb Miller, a former blacksmith, challenged, his voice rough with suspicion. "You can't," Silas replied, his gaze unwavering. "But you have no other choice." The journey was grueling. The sun beat down mercilessly, the desert wind whipped sand into their faces, and the nights were cold and lonely. Silas led the way, scouting for water and avoiding treacherous terrain. He taught the survivors how to ration their meager supplies, how to identify edible plants, and how to defend themselves. He rarely spoke about his past, but the others sensed a darkness within him, a pain that mirrored their own. Martha Olson, a woman of quiet strength, seemed to understand him best. She would often bring him a cup of strong coffee in the mornings, offering a silent acknowledgement of his burdens. "You remind me of my brother," she said one evening, as they sat around a small campfire. "He was a good man, but he carried a lot of sorrow." Silas didn't respond, but he appreciated her understanding. He couldn't shake off the echoes of his past, not entirely, but Martha's empathy provided a momentary respite. Days later, as they neared Redemption Springs, they spotted a rider approaching in the distance. It was Deputy Marshal Jedediah Jed Calhoun, a young, eager lawman fresh out of Tombstone. "Well, look what we have here," Jed exclaimed, reining in his horse. "Looks like you folks have had a rough time." Silas eyed him with a mixture of suspicion and resignation. Jed was a decent enough man, but he was inexperienced, naive. He wouldn't understand the complexities of the territory, the subtle nuances of justice. "The Devil's Claw," Jed declared, his voice filled with righteous indignation. "We're bringing them in. It's safe now." Silas knew it wasn't that simple. Jericho Blackwood wouldn't be brought to justice easily. He had connections, allies, a network of informants that spanned the territory. "Thank you, Deputy," Silas said politely, "but we'd appreciate a few escort riders, just to ensure we reach Redemption Springs safely." Jed hesitated, but he saw the steely glint in Silas's eyes, the quiet confidence that commanded respect. "All right," Jed conceded. "I'll send a detail with you, but those bandits are going down." As the escort riders joined them, Silas couldn't shake a feeling of foreboding. He had dealt with men like Jericho Blackwood before, and he knew that they didn't play by the rules. A few days later, as the caravan neared Redemption Springs, they were ambushed. A hail of gunfire erupted, scattering the travelers. Silas reacted instantly, drawing his rifle and returning fire. The escort riders fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Jericho Blackwood emerged from the chaos, a cruel smile on his face. "Thought you could protect them, did you?" he sneered. Silas ignored the taunt, focusing on the immediate threat. He spotted Martha Olson shielding the children, Thomas Olson struggling to his feet. He needed to buy them time. He charged towards Blackwood, firing his rifle, creating a distraction. A bullet grazed his arm, but he barely noticed. He engaged Blackwood in a fierce hand-to-hand combat, parrying blows, dodging attacks. Suddenly, a shot rang out. Silas felt a searing pain in his chest. He stumbled backward, collapsing to the ground. Blackwood loomed over him, his eyes filled with triumph. "Should have stayed out of this, scout," he spat. As his vision blurred, Silas saw Jed Calhoun arrive, firing at Blackwood. The warman seemed to have barely escaped the initial attack. With a final surge of strength, Silas reached for the locket he's kept with him all along. He pressed it into the hands of the young girl he's tried to protect. "Keep it safe," he whispered before darkness consumed him. Jed Calhoun, seeing Silas fall, felt a surge of anger and determination. He rallied the remaining travelers, driving off the remnants of the Devil's Claw gang. As the dust settled, he knelt beside Silas, his face etched with sorrow. "You saved them," Jed said softly. "You were a good man." Silas didn't respond. The setting sun cast a long shadow over the battlefield, silhouetting a lone figure lying still in the desert dust. The promise of redemption springs felt distant, tainted by loss and sacrifice. The locket glittered faintly in the hand of a young girl, a silent testament to a life lived on the edge of civilization, a life cut short in the unforgiving landscape of the Arizona Territory. Weeks later, a small headstone was erected on a rise overlooking Redemption Springs. It read simply "Silas, a protector." A weathered silver locket lay at its base,